What's up everybody, it's your boy back again with another certified hood classic, and for today on this beautiful Monday, I gotta give you one of my most worst videos I've possibly ever made. But of course, before we even get into that, I gotta ask, how has your past week been? How's these past 6 days been for you? Did you do anything exciting? Did you watch any football? Did you also see the Browns get their ass kicked by the Dallas Cowboys and have to cry in the room because there's no way the Browns still have to deal with Deshaun Watson until 2026? Oh, it was just me? But I stated before, today, it's one of my worst videos, man. And if you know me on this channel, right, if you've been watching my videos long enough, you know that I am a habitual shit talker. I like to say a bunch of spicy things, and I like to trash talk all your favorite artists. Unless it's Taylor Swift, then I'll tone it down a bit because I'd rather not get called the N-word by a 14-year-old white girl from Fort Lauderdale. But if there's one thing I haven't done for you guys, it's give you guys my musical hot takes. And I'm not talking about basic takes like, oh, Drake is trash or Travis Scott is trash. Nah, I'm talking about takes that would discredit every single music opinion I've ever had on this channel. So for today's video, I'm going to give you 3 of some of my more spicier music takes off the top of my head, all for the sake of seeing you get mad in the comments. So if you're either me or a teenager with mommy issues, you've been keeping up with Playboi Carti recently in his whole new era of sound for his upcoming album, I Am Music. And to accompany this new era, he's been going with this more deep voice baritone sound instead of the usual raspy, screamy voice we were hearing with Whole Lotta Red. And he has dropped a couple tracks all over social media, showcasing his new sound alongside some of the best production I've heard since Die Lit. But as you saw in the intro crowd, we're not here to talk about the production, or not fully at least. Like, see, for me personally, I truly do feel like this new era of Carti is some of the best work we've ever gotten from him in his entire career. Like, it sounds so refreshing and hard-hitting alongside that clear improvement in Carti's pin game. It's like we're getting a complete revamp on the mumble rap sound. And while Carti's previous eras had aspects to them that made them great in their own ways, I feel like when it comes to the current music era, I feel like it's the level of improvement and change we've heard from then in the self-titled era to now that allows this to sound like the best sounding thing I've heard from Carti. Ditching the high-pitched voice of his youth and the repetitive and simplistic lyrics and the although fun but still formulaic beats for something more hard-hitting and sinister, really tapping into the Atlanta trap sound while also mixing in the Whole Lotta Red aesthetic. It honestly makes me excited for when the album drops, if it ever does drop, and honestly really does make me question where Carti will go after this, because this current sound right here that Carti's doing really does feel like the pinnacle of what mumble rap can do for the mainstream hip-hop scene. Alright, so for this next take, I know I said I wouldn't say something like Travis Scott is trash, but just hear me out for a second, right? So after 5 years of waiting, Travis Scott finally managed to drop his highly anticipated album Utopia, and it garnered tons of praise from people who bought his skin on Fortnite. But if I'm being honest, I thought that album was so dog water. It's gotta be the most messiest, incohesive, cash grabbiest Travis Scott project I've heard. And his lyricism is probably my biggest criticism I've had for him since Astroworld, seeming to drop off greatly in quality. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I ever really saw Travis Scott as a more lyrically inclined rapper, but at least his bars worked and his delivery was solid. Nowadays when I hear him rap, it just sounds like he's putting words together, and sometimes he can just sound absolutely dead inside. And when it comes to listening to Utopia, it feels like I'm getting a parody of what I actually liked before in Travis Scott's rapping ability. And then there's his singing as well that I just absolutely can't stand either, especially with that song My Eyes making me want to gouge out my own eyes. And then there was most of his features on that album just not connecting with me either, with Playboi Carti being the main one that I actually liked, hopping on Fiend, because if I'm being honest, Playboi Carti took that whole song over and practically made it his own. But SZA, Future, Bad Bunny, and all those other Billboard bandits that hop on the album, I didn't really care for those guys, and if I'm being honest, listening through this album, I fell asleep halfway through because I was just so bored and unentertained. So in conclusion, Rodeo is still one of the best mainstream rap albums of the past decade, and if I'm being honest, no matter what Travis Scott does at this point, nothing will truly be able to top the impact that that album has had on just the entire mainstream rap game of today. Alright, so this one not be as spicy as the other takes, but even still, it's been sitting on my mind since Brat's summer began. So when Charli XCX's latest album Brat dropped back in early June, it garnered tons of support and kind of became a viral sensation for all the girlies who think life is hard because they can't use their daddy's credit card anymore. It even managed to get the notable 10 out of 10 from Anthony Fantano of all people, which threw a lot of people off, but also made people who can't even think for themselves want to glaze this project even more. But I am here to say that, you know, it was cool and all, but Brat just wasn't really all that. Is it a good album? Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll give it credit where it's due. It's solid, it's decent. But is it this genre-defining approach to pop that feels all alt and cool? Nah, not really. Like, if I'm being honest, y'all really have just been gassing up the same kind of music you'd hear be playing in an H&M on repeat, but I digress. The production was nice, and the subject matter was nice as well, but in terms of more eccentric pop albums that have came out this year, this is nowhere near the best that I've heard. It still follows the standard pop formula to an extent, especially when you look at its hit songs such as 360, 365, and Club Classics. But I guess what made people like it a lot was still the fact that it played relatively safe for most pop audiences, so it could still be able to, garner those streams and that popularity, And the publicity that it's gotten recently has been absolutely massive, with it even getting political endorsements now. But as an album, it is just music you'd hear while you're shopping in a Target or when you're in a high-end fashion store that sells shitty quality t-shirts for $80. But these are all my hot takes, man. Whether you agree with me or not is really up to you, because at the end of the day, not gonna lie, I don't really care what you gotta say. I said what I said and that's final. But let me know your thoughts, man, and all your actual fire hot takes down in the comments below, and I'll sit there and argue with you for at least an hour. I have to go back to crying in my room because I still just have to get hit with that realization that Deshaun Watson still plays in the NFL. Eagles win, Browns lose, music's nice, alright? Y'all have an amazing week. I'll see you next Monday. Peace.
If a predator tries to follow it into the den, the wombat will use its butt to crush the predator's head against the ceiling. In this way, the wombat can even kill the predator by twerking it to death.